What's up? This is Theo on Sports. My
Oh,
name is
oh.
Kennedy. Is across the screen from me. If you haven't followed us on Twitter yet, you should do so. You should do so. Follow us at Lunch Sports on Twitter. You can follow me at Kennedy Curly 44 and
And
Hayden at I don't know what yours is.
that boy Clink, capital T, capital B, capital K. That's
Also
boy
Curly for me,
Clink.
Curley.
There you go. Make sure people.
Curley. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we have some rumors and some news, actual news about your Saints. Michael Thomas got extended
Mm-hmm.
5 years, $100 million, making him the highest paid wide receiver in the league.
61 million guaranteed.
61 million guaranteed, and on top of that, speaking in the same context, Zeke has not gotten a contract. As a matter of fact, it kind of looks like things are getting worse. So we're going to discuss those two, along with we'll talk about. We have a little fun list at the end. We've seen this done on other podcasts and YouTube channels, so we're going to do it ourselves. Or I guess it's the we're ranking the last decade of NBA champions.
Yes.
So it's the top 10 of the last 10.
Yep.
And so we'll do that at the end. But right now we can go ahead and start with Michael Thomas and what our reactions are for that.
Wow. What a good day. It has been a very, very good day. Michael Thomas back at Saints training ground. Got his money. Everyone's happy. The best receiver in the NFL is now paid like the best receiver in the NFL. Sorry. Second best receiver in the NFL.
Fourth?
Two.
Oh.
Hang on, real quick. You didn't have Mike Evans ahead of him, did you?
No, I had it Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and was it Antonio Brown or gosh, I can't remember actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Might have had him third.
Yeah, not mad at that. Again. My Twitter group chat has been blowing up. So as Saints fans, we are all very excited. I'm seeing some people like freaking out because they think they paid him or overpaid for him. And I really don't think it was an overpay because also people are like, what are you going to do in the next 2 years when Drew is gone? Michael Thomas as a receiver is a possession guy. You can throw it anywhere near him and he's going to come down with the ball. That's going to help whether it's a young quarterback that we draft or Teddy Bridgewater, who has been learning behind Drew Brees for the past 2 seasons now. So, I'm not worried about that. Again, Michael Thomas, the way he plays even as a receiver, is very beneficial to younger quarterbacks who come in and not always, are the most accurate throwing the ball. So I don't have an issue with it. Most of the people that I've talked to that I would consider, decent, knowledgeable Saints fans are excited about it. Again, he's our best and at the moment only decent receiver. We have a couple undrafted guys who are making some noise, but at the moment it's Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara is really our second best receiver. So I think it needed to be done. I don't have an issue with the money because, again, the market was going that way anyway. And we got it done before he was even a free agent. So I think if we would have waited even, it would have continued to gone up.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Well, first off, I just want to say sorry if I repeat some of your points. My connection, I guess, has been going a little weird. It's been telling me poor connection, and you cut out a little bit, but overall, I understood what you were saying, and I think if it comes to my recording, I think anyone else probably understand what you're saying too. But my reaction, I agree. Yeah, so you have, I mean, do I think he was overpaid a little bit? I think he was probably overpaid a little bit, but you overpay for the best guys in the league. That's the point. You know, they're going to overpay Patrick Mahomes when he's when he's up for a contract extension. Aaron Rodgers should be overpaid. Julio Jones should be overpaid. There are guys who are the best at their position, or arguably the best at their position. I think I had him at third. You overpay for guys like that. And wide receiver is one of those, like running back, maybe you don't overpay a running back, but a wide receiver, those guys generally have a little bit more longevity on their career than running backs. So I would overpay for Michael Thomas. Not only that, though, I actually think it works out beautifully for them because you have Drew Brees, you have him, but when Drew Brees is gone, the next quarterback is not going to be getting paid anything near Drew Brees. Yeah. So you're going to have a quarterback likely on the rookie deal, or in Teddy Bridgewater's case, on a lower deal. And so it kind of balances out, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So Michael Thomas, you get that exactly as you said. In my opinion, the best possession receiver in the league. He at least, I think this season he definitely led the league in receptions. Last season he was up there, and so you're keeping him long term. As you said with Teddy Bridgewater, you have someone who maybe when Drew Brees leaves, maybe you already have your quarterback of the future. He's 26 right now. He's been able to recover from that nasty injury by now. I'm assuming, and he's been able to learn from one of the best mentors in the league. And so by the time maybe Teddy Bridgewater comes in and becomes the starter, he'll have had reps with Michael Thomas. He'll have that receiver to go to with Michael Thomas. Yep. I actually think that it works out wonderfully for everybody, for Michael Thomas, who gets the most money of his position, and for the Saints, who get to keep him long term and have a beautiful setup for really anybody coming into that situation. So I do wish it was like that for the Cowboys with Zeke, because the Cowboys are in a little bit of a different situation where they have to pay everybody right now. They have to pay Zeke, Jalen Smith, Byron Jones is coming up. Dak Prescott is someone who's on eligible for a contract extension sometime soon, and Amari Cooper's there. So you have to pay a lot of people, and I'm guessing one of those guys is probably going to get a short end of the stick. At least that are coming anywhere close to that contract extension would be Michael Thomas, who's now taken care of, and Alvin Kamara. So I think that it was a wonderful move for the Saints. They shouldn't have any worries about it. And how old is he now? He's got to be like 24. Michael Thomas is 26.
Indeed, he is.
Okay. So 5 years from now, he'll be 31.
And the thing that's different about that also is his game isn't really built on, being super fast. Right. So he ran a 4.67, something like that. He's not the most explosive guy. So even as he continues to age, that's not going to sap away from his ability as much as it would, other guys that are, very.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking the same thing. I think that, maybe as he ages a little bit and slows down, I don't think that's necessarily going to help him. But that's not what you're saying, though. I'm not trying to twist your words. But because that's not part of his foundation right now, it shouldn't hurt him overwhelmingly. I almost see him as like a tight end at the wide receiver position. Yeah. He's got that Jason Witten in him almost, where like Witten did slowly, become a little bit worse, but he still was always relevant no matter how old he was. And I think that Michael Thomas could be one of those guys with his his intelligence at the position, his hands, that even if he's partially open, he can make an impact at whatever age. So I think at the end of the day, if he's healthy and he's on the field, he's going to be a player for y'all. So the Saints should be very happy.
Yes. Indeed.
Well, on a little bit more of a tragic note, at least for me.
Tragic.
Ezekiel Elliott. I got an update this morning from Bleacher Report saying that the contract negotiations aren't even close. We saw the other day that Jerry Jones said that you don't need a rushing leader to win a Super Bowl, and it just sounds like it's not that optimistic at this moment. It sounds to me, I have a fear that he's maybe going to sit out the whole season because we saw that happen last year with Le'Veon Bell, and this hurts because this is the worst season for a Cowboys fan for someone to do that. This is the one season that I honestly feel like the Cowboys maybe shouldn't be a Super Bowl favorite, but I think they're a contender. I think that they could win the NFC East. I have them winning the NFC East. I think that they could win 11, 12 games in this season because their schedule is not outlandish. The division isn't outlandish. And so, but they do have to go against the Eagles. And the Eagles have that same schedule as the Cowboys. The Eagles have a roster that's really complete like the Cowboys. The Eagles also have a better quarterback. And I think that if you take Zeke off of the Cowboys, I would probably say that the Eagles should be the favorites to win the NFC East. And if the Eagles win the NFC East, are the Cowboys going to make the playoffs? Well, I don't know because you have, the Saints are in there, the Rams are there. Obviously, the Eagles will win the NFC East in that scenario. The Packers are a team that I'm taking a little bit more seriously. And in that division, you also have the Vikings and the Bears, who you have to take seriously. I know you don't like the Falcons, but you have to at least take them as a threat. The Panthers are a team that you got to look out for. You think that the 49ers actually are going to win that division.
Yeah.
So the NFC has a lot of teams that are going to be contending for those last two wildcard spots. And if Zeke isn't playing, I'm not confident that the Cowboys are going to be able to get it done because, in my opinion, Dak is decent, but he's not good enough to do it without the rushing leader. Jerry Jones said that you don't need a rushing leader to win a Super Bowl. I would agree if you're not Dak Prescott. If you're Dak Prescott or below, you need someone to run the ball. And if you're Dak Prescott, if you're higher than Dak Prescott, maybe Jared Goff, maybe you don't need Todd Gurley. Maybe you could, deal with someone like, I don't know, Devontae Freeman or I don't know who, Philip Lindsay, someone who's, floating around that top 10 area, but maybe not in it or barely in it. Dak Prescott, I think, needs someone like that. He needs a top receiver like that. So I think that they need to extend him. But I will say this: if he doesn't play, if he pulls a Le'Veon Bell, and I told you this earlier, if he pulls a Le'Veon Bell, I want them to trade him because he still has value. He won't have taken any hits in the last season. He's still Ezekiel Elliott, arguably the best running back in the league, and he's still going to be able to get you probably, at the very least, an Antonio Brown. If you're not going to extend him, I feel like you might as well get something out of him. So I want to extend him, but if they're not going to, you might as well trade him for something, get another running back, and then try to build a wide receiver base around Dak Prescott. So I'm not really sure exactly what to make out of this other than they should extend him. And if they don't, then the Cowboys are screwed for this season, the one season that I actually felt like they had a moderate chance to win the Super Bowl.
Man, I sure do miss Ian today.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't want to come on because of this.
Wow. Jerry. If the Cowboys do not have Ezekiel Elliott this season, I would go as far to say to pick them third in their division.
Behind the Redskins?
Yes, behind the Washington Redskins. Nah. Let's just put it simply. Dak Prescott is not good enough to win them games by himself.
Well, we saw them without Zeke for part of 2 seasons ago. They went 9-7.
Okay.
And so I think that they would probably win about the 8 games that we would expect for an average Dallas Cowboys team to win. At least that we were accustomed to as kids. We would always see the Cowboys win 8. It was 8. I think they won 8-8. What, 3-4 seasons in a row?
At least 3 times.
Oh, that was ridiculous. And the crazy thing was they almost won the NFC East all 3 of those years.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I think that they'd go better than probably. I don't trust the quarterback situation in Washington, and I think the Cowboys' defense is better. But I think I see what you're saying.
they would have to ride that defense more than they did last year.
Yeah.
I picked Philly either way, but I picked it to be close. If Zeke is not there, it's not close. Again, there's a reason that he's the rushing leader. There's a reason he led the league in rushing attempts by a mile. The ball runs through him, and that's how their offense is able to make that defense look as good as it is as well. They're good on their own, independently, but Dallas most of the time dominates time of possession because they're able to run the ball, and then Dak is able to use play action, which is what, in my opinion, he's best at when he's able to only have 3 or 4 guys dropping back because everyone else is expecting Zeke to get the ball. So, Amari Cooper's, a solid receiver, good receiver. But it's hard. It's hard. That's a blow for Dallas. That is.
It would be a huge blow, but I will say this. I liked the running back pick in the 4th round this year. Now, I'm not going to say that normally I don't expect 4th round picks to come in and contribute immediately, but running back's a little bit different, where Alvin Kamara came in, 3rd round pick, was a beast. Kareem Hunt came in as a 3rd round pick, was a beast from day one. It's not outlandish to expect 3rd round guys to come in and see them contribute right away. And so if Zeke didn't play this season, and this could maybe in a week or two, they get a deal done. I don't know, but as of now, it looks like maybe that's something that we got to think about. And if he doesn't play this season, then maybe you start him. They brought in Alfred Morris. Maybe the running back. I could see the running game being okay, and I could see them putting enough wins to maybe contend for that 5th or 6th spot in the playoffs. But I wouldn't call them a contender for the Super Bowl like I was before we were talking about this, before when we thought Zeke was going to show up and when we thought he was going to play this season. So I think that he's the difference between maybe not most Super Bowl teams. I completely agree with Jerry Jones. You don't need a rushing title winner to win the Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, I think the last team that had a rushing leader was the Broncos in, I want to say, 98. Other than that, like the Patriots don't have a dominant running back. The Eagles didn't have a dominant running back. The Falcons had a good running back when they made it to the Super Bowl, but they didn't win it first off. And even if they did, it wasn't like he was a rushing leader contender. The Packers didn't have a dominant running back, and I don't think I'm trying to think of the Seahawks had Marshawn Lynch, so that was probably the best running back that we've seen in the last decade or so. So you don't need it, but it certainly does help, especially if your quarterback is, Dak Prescott isn't any of those quarterbacks that we've seen other than Nick Foles. I'd say that I'd probably take Dak Prescott over Nick Foles, but that's about the only quarterback in the last decade or so that I'd take Dak Prescott over. So you need to get him help.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. If he's looking for that money that Michael Thomas got, that would be a little concerning because of his position.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think if they offered him Todd Gurley money, I don't see why, But that's the thing, they don't want to. So, they won't even.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play with this thought a little bit, actually. So what I've read this offseason is, what everyone's heard. You got to pay Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, Jalen Smith, Byron Jones, Zeke, and then I don't know. I'm guessing they're not gonna go crazy on someone like Lyle Collins, but you still have other guys who are on the roster that, they'll be free agents. Yep. Maybe they'll end up leaving to a different team, or maybe you decide you want to pay them too. I don't think you'd pay a lot for Lyle Collins, but those 5 guys that I mentioned are the ones that you're going to have to pay big. what I've read from Mike Fisher a while ago, he reports for 24/7. He's a Dallas reporter. What I read was that the odd man out would likely be Byron Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've talked about how I feel that maybe the Cowboys should have drafted Jalen Ramsey because of the cornerback importance, the significance of corner versus the significance of running back. And I've mentioned, basically I've just mentioned that maybe a cornerback would have been like a dominant cornerback, someone who could lock down one of the best receivers in the league like Jalen Ramsey would be a little bit more valuable. If you end up not paying Zeke and then giving his money to Byron Jones, drafting a running back, is that a bad thing?
No, not at all. Not at all. But
I think it could work out long term. But right now, with the Cowboys being a potential contender this season, it's just not fun to watch. Long term, it could work out, but you also have to get the right running back, and then you also have to worry about, is Tyron Smith going to be the same Tyron Smith? Because we're kind of seeing him decline. Travis Frederick is coming back now, but you never know how, that disease or that what's it called? Autoimmune disease is going to affect him. Maybe he's not going to be the same player, so you got to worry about those two guys. Is Lyle Collins even going to be here? Mm-hmm. So are you going to have to draft another, right tackle? Mm-hmm. You got to worry about a lot of things down the road, even with Byron Jones and said running back, that you don't have to worry about right now. So that's my only issue. But I think I've spoken enough about the Cowboys and I guess their future.
Mm.
Yeah, so you have any more thoughts on that? Wipe that smile off your face, man.
Oh, I can't. Oh, all right. All right. I'm done. Mashing on the Cowboys today.
All right. That's good. That's good.
They're going through enough.
Well, let's go ahead and transition to our list. We've talked about the contracts enough, so we can talk about this list. Top team, or I guess the rankings of the last 10 champions. So since 2010, why don't we just go ahead and start at number 10?
Okay.
Would
you like to go first?
I'll go first. I've got the Toronto Raptors. Now,
wow. Okay.
I want to preface this by saying I really like what the Raptors did this season, and I would never take away a championship from anyone who won it. I think that it's completely unfair for anyone to say, oh, we should put an asterisk next to that championship because they were playing against a watered-down Golden State Warriors team. I think that you could put that asterisk on the Warriors, but don't put it on the winner. Put it on the loser. We could say, okay, the Warriors may have played better with Kevin Durant or with a fully healthy Klay Thompson or DeMarcus Cousins, but the Raptors did what they needed to do. They ended up winning. They played great defense. They played great team basketball. The role players stepped up, and they beat the 76ers in a clutch moment with Kawhi Leonard hitting. And that 76ers team was actually really talented. Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, JJ Redick, and you had some other guys on that team as well, but that team was really young, talented, and the Raptors beat them when most people actually, I think, thought that the Raptors were going to lose. Then they go to the Bucks, and everyone thinks that they're going to lose because the Bucks had actually been taking care of business, and the Raptors ended up beating them, and they beat a deep team with the MVP. They deserve this championship. They earned it. But at the same time, I do have to say, I don't think that they would beat the Lakers or any of the other Warriors teams. I don't think that they would beat the Heat, but I think that would be close, actually. And I don't think that they would beat the Mavs, although they were constructed similarly. I don't think that would probably be. I don't think that would be the case personally, but the Raptors completely deserved it. They're my 10th team. I think that they had Kawhi and then a bunch of other above average players. I think the Mavs, I'll use them as comparison since I said they were comparable teams. You had Dirk, who was one of the better players in the league at that point. And then they also had a bunch of above average players, but I think their above average players were better than the Raptors' above average players. And I think that the Lakers, you could possibly put them that. I don't know. Yeah, they're my 10th team. You can go ahead and share yours.
I have the 2015 Warriors.
Wow. Wow. You're going to hate me.
The 2015 Warriors, who I think most people would agree with me. I don't think they beat the Cavs teams. I don't think they beat the Cavs if the Cavs have Kyrie and Kevin Love. Not that Warriors team. I don't. You know, Steph was okay. You know,
MVP Steph. Well, that was MVP Steph, right?
Yeah, he won his first MVP.
Okay.
Correct. Hang on. Let me because trust me. Stephanie Curry.
Who's that?
That's Stephanie Curry. So you know what's interesting about the fact that he won MVP this year? His scoring was down. His assists were down. He did shoot better from the field. He played less minutes, but he won MVP.
What season? This was 2015, right?
2015. He averaged 23 points a game, 7 assists. Shot 40% from the field, 44% from three, and played 30 minutes a game.
This was so.
And next season,
this was different. Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. The next season totally deserves MVP. This is the MVP I think I would take away from Steph. But
I could see. Would you have given it to Harden, who was second that year?
Yeah, I would have gave it to Harden.
Okay, I could see that. I think that you could make that case because this was probably one of those cases of best player on the best team, and he was exciting. He was awesome to watch that year.
Yeah,
but I could see what you're saying.
I agree. He's so exciting until he got to the finals,
and they won. the finals where he was the leading scorer on the team.
How many points did he score?
25 points a game. I'll pull that up. I think most people would acknowledge that Andre Iguodala should not have won Finals MVP.
You're right. It should have been LeBron.
Oh, please. You know, by technicality. No, actually, no, it shouldn't have been. LeBron shot lower than 40% in that series. I don't care. I don't care. On. You can't make excuses for MVP. No. You can't make he didn't have this. No, the way that he played, he was not an MVP. He scored a lot of volume stats, but he wasn't efficient, which is your favorite word. You love to talk to me about efficiency. He was efficient other ways. He was making passes. He was playing solid defense, whatever.
So 2010 Kobe in the finals. Does he deserve Finals MVP? He wasn't efficient.
Well, of course he deserved. He won. They won. He was the best player on the winning team. I don't like the idea of giving MVP in the finals to someone who was on the losing team.
I don't either. Yeah. But I think if anything, this is the who was the best player? Who was the best player on the floor?
Either Steph or LeBron.
Kennedy. Stop.
Steph was good. Steph was fine. I really don't see what people are talking. Oh, he had a slightly down series from percentage, but his percentages were still good. So, okay. But I'll tell you when I have the 2015. I'm not going to tell you now, but I'll tell you later.
Either way, I am part of the large group of people that believe if the Cavs have Kyrie and Kevin Love, they beat the Warriors. Okay. I don't think that Warriors team was impressive or as impressive. I would say their 2016 team, even though they lost, was better than their 2015 team. and I don't think that's close. I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
I just think they were fortunate with the injury bug, and the Cavs weren't. And LeBron didn't play well enough after Game 3. He played a great first 3 games, but no, he did not play well enough. So yeah.
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 I mean
Wait,
I think that
Steph's first name is Wardell?
What?
Wardell Stephen Curry?
His name? I know his dad's name is.
His first name is Wardell. That's.
Oh, it is. Dang, that's funny. That's funny.
Oh god.
Yeah. Well, there's that. I have them actually quite a bit higher, but I'll tell you why. I think that you might maybe respect the reasons. But my number 9, the 2012 Miami Heat.
The what?
The 2012. You hate me. Okay.
Oh, Kennedy.
The 2012 Miami Heat. So LeBron was great. I thought that Dwayne Wade, one of the best shooting guards we've ever seen, but I thought he was quite a bit overrated at this point in his career. At this point in his career, he was always injured come postseason. So I was playing through lots of, hamstring injuries, and I don't know if they were quad injuries or not, but he was definitely dealing with a lot of things that made LeBron actually have to carry the team. He couldn't really shoot from 3, which is not a big deal in that era, but it's what we're seeing today. Maybe there's a little bit of bias toward teams that are more modern because we've seen the game grow toward that direction. But at that point, I think that the Heat were a great team. I think that they were actually a little disappointing to their potential. They could have won all 4 of those championships that they were together for. They didn't. They lost to the Mavs, which is why I actually have the Mavs higher than both of the Miami Heat teams. They lost to the Spurs, and the one time they did beat the Spurs, they beat them in 7, and it was actually due to a really good, clutch shot by Ray Allen, who was not on this 2012 team. And their championship, in my opinion, I know you're going to hate this, but going against the Thunder were they were amazing, talented team, no experience, and we always talk about what could have been with Thunder, what could have been, because they hadn't reached it yet. The Thunder deserved to be in the championship, and the Heat deserved to win it. They beat who they played. The same logic should apply to them as it applied to the Raptors in my previous argument. But the Thunder, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, only Kevin Durant was really close to his ceiling. Westbrook wasn't in MVP form. James Harden wasn't in his MVP form. Serge Ibaka was actually pretty good. And that was a young, inexperienced team that probably shouldn't have won anyway. But props to the Heat. They won it, and they deserved it. I just didn't think – I wasn't as impressed with the Heat as maybe the rest of America. I thought they could have been a lot better than they were, and I thought that their depth at that point really wasn't that impressive, personally.
Wow.
You had Shane Battier and – who else was
Miller,
Mike Miller. They had more holes than teams that I have higher on the list. Which the Mavs didn't have any holes. The Warriors really haven't had any holes. The Lakers didn't have that many holes. I don't have the Lakers too much higher, to be honest with you. But yeah,
wow.
That's my opinion.
Wow. Okay. All right. I was not expecting that. Yeah, we'll get to the Heat when we get to them on my list.
Okay.
For the
So
moment, I'm going to ignore the blasphemy that you just spoke. Surprisingly, again. What is it? Oh, okay. I have the 2010 Lakers. You look at who they beat in the finals. A bunch of old washed up Boston Celtics. In the Western Conference Finals, I want to say they beat the Suns, and Steve Nash was like 38 years old.
Steve Nash is still leading the league in assists. Let's just point that out.
All right.
Good.
Sorry.
Don't you disrespect Steve Nash like that.
Yeah,
your dog's complaining at what you have to say. Don't disrespect Steve Nash. I speak dog. Go on.
You want to talk about young teams not reaching their ceiling? They beat the Nuggets with probably the most overrated star of all time in Carmelo Anthony. Yeah, and then they beat up a bunch of old, washed-up dudes who, were the 4th seed, I think. Was Boston the 4th?
The Celtics?
Yeah.
Were they the 4th? I don't think they were the 4th seed. What year is this? 2010?
2010.
You can go ahead. Keep talking, but I'm going to look this up.
Okay. That's what I'm looking at right now. Boston, what? And not only that, they went to 7 games with Boston. With Boston, you went to 7 games. Boston was the 4th seed. They were 11. They went 50-32.
Oh, they were 4th. You checked that?
Yes, they were the
okay.
4th. They were the 4th seed. Not only were they behind the Atlanta Hawks, they were behind the Orlando Magic, and they finished behind LeBron's Cavs.
Look, the Magic were the team who made it to the finals the season before. You said they were behind who else? The Magic, the Hawks, and who?
And then the Cavs. The Cavs won the 1st seed.
The Cavs were the 1st seed?
Yes, with LeBron.
Okay. Well, okay, so I do see what you're saying, and I'll be completely honest with you. That's the only finals series that I never watched because I was actually working a mission trip in a different country and we couldn't watch TV or anything like that. And so we had a certain times to go, on the computer. There was like a library there or something that we could use, and I checked the finals then, but I couldn't watch it, and so I can't really speak to that. But my personal opinion on the Lakers has to do with the fact that they won as a repeat champion, and that the West, I'll give you credit. You did say that it was against the Nuggets and an experienced team. I have a little bit more respect for the Suns than probably you did at the time, but the West was still
I think in 2010, the Suns, if we're talking about, 2007, 2008, 2009 Suns, sure. But, 2010, come on, Kobe. You're supposed to be this assassin.
Well, he was. They ended up taking down Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, and I understand, what were they, 50-32? I think that they were probably more disappointing than the Heat, but that was still that was the first big 3 that really any of those guys had to play against, and it was Kobe who ended up taking them down, and then LeBron after them.
Interesting. I'm trying to find this great assassin Kobe Bryant's numbers in this finals, since he's the 2nd greatest winner of all time.
Probably be 3rd. And Bill Russell as well, but.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. 3rd greatest winner of all time. Kobe.
Look those up. Since you brought those up.
Kobe Bean.
His numbers: 28.6 points a game on 40.5% shooting, 32%. Overall, not really great, but he was clutch. That's the one thing that I do remember. Game 7, I think that was the game that he kind of Yeah, 23 points. No, the defense. That was a crazy defensive game.
Yeah, Ron Artest was the one that hit the big shot. Just so you know, since
that was
Kobe
funny.
always takes the last shots and makes them always.
Meta World Peace was the one.
Meta
World Peace. You're being so disrespectful today. First disrespectful.
Pass it to my teammate who actually makes a shot in a big game.
Okay, so I'll get to the Lakers later, but you actually kind of maybe added some more fuel to why I have them just a little bit higher than you. But I'll tell you a little bit about that later. I'm going to move on to number 8, where I have the 2013 Miami Heat. They were better than the 2012 Miami Heat because they had Ray Allen. They didn't have Ray Allen in 2012, but they did have Ray Allen in 2013, and he ended up just barely getting them over the hump. They were actually probably not going to win that series until he got them to Game 7. And honestly, you could even blame Greg Popovich a little bit on that when he took Tim Duncan out in the last possession of the game, and they didn't have any rebounders on the court. I'm just throwing that out there. So,
are you one of these people that believe Ray Allen saved LeBron's legacy?
Maybe a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. I mean, everyone needs help. I understand that everyone needs help, but honestly, like, they don't win that game, and LeBron's a one-time champion with the super stacked Miami Heat team. I don't know. It's not really that great of a legacy to me. He's still one of the greatest players of all time, definitely top 2 still. I don't think there's any path in his career that would take him away from being a top 2 player in the league. But that team, once again, it came down to Dwayne Wade was a year older. Wasn't elite in my opinion by any means, but still good. Chris Bosh was pretty good. He wasn't elite, but he was certainly up there. And then LeBron was elite. LeBron was the best player in the league. I don't think it was really even close.
That was LeBron's best season ever.
That was probably his best season.
Yeah.
And they actually did have depth, with Ray Allen and or at least a little bit more depth. I didn't love the depth the year before. It wasn't trash, but I think that the teams that I have higher all did have actually really good depth. So the Miami Heat that year, once again, I just don't think that their chemistry was that amazing, in my opinion. And I think that they kind of won that title on a thread. They were hanging on by a thread. I don't want to say it was fluky because I don't believe in fluky titles, but it was like there was more luck than people might want to admit. Maybe Miami fans would want to admit. So I have them at number 7. But fear not, I'm not trying to hate on LeBron because actually LeBron was elite in 2013, and he still is. 2012, I think that there were still symptoms of LeBron kind of deferring, but he was obviously still the best player. But I do have one of LeBron's team actually quite a bit higher on this list, so we'll get to that later. But yeah, I love, I think LeBron. By the way, shout out to LeBron. I think yesterday was his 1-year anniversary to the school. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. But anyway, I'm not trying to hate on LeBron. I didn't love the chemistry of this team. So it was more actually to do with Dwayne Wade.
You have them at number 8. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I have your number 10 team at number 8.
Okay.
The 2019 Raptors. I agree they'd be much higher if they had beaten a full healthy Warriors team, but I don't think they beat a full healthy Warriors team. But either way, like you said, they beat who was in front of them. I think their role players are better than people want to talk about. People act like Kawhi, kind of carried this like bunch of scraps like to an NBA championship, and I think that's a joke. You have a lot of guys that played really, really well. For example, Marc Gasol, Kyle Lowry finally got rid of that playoff thing that we've talked about so much. Danny Green, who's now a Laker. Serge Ibaka, who's been a really big presence on that team. Pascal Siakam, who we're talking about now that Kawhi's gone, stepping up and being more of a number 1 guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that their role players are probably better than people would give them credit for, but I also don't think that their role players are, like, I think, like as I said, I think that the Mavs role players were better in 2011. I think that the Spurs role players were maybe as good or a little bit not as good, but they also had a little bit more not star power necessarily, but they had more all around play. You know what I mean? And then the Warriors, Cavs, I think that they had just better teams in general. But I'll tell you obviously the order later. But yeah, no, the Raptors are great. And yeah, I mean, also to their credit, people talk about, oh, they wouldn't have beat a fully healthy Warriors team, but no one was going to beat a fully healthy Warriors team. You and I thought that maybe the Bucks could actually do it. I think that they actually had a better chance than the Raptors. Just because
I do too.
I still think that because Giannis is a better paint presence than anyone on the Raptors. But once again, I don't think anyone was going to beat a fully healthy Warriors team. At least in hindsight. At the time, I think I thought the Bucks, but in hindsight, I don't think that was going to happen. But yeah, so I could see them at 8. What are we on, 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 7. I have the Lakers. I had them at 6, but you actually did sway me to think I'll drop them down one spot. So I love Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this. The fact that he actually didn't shoot that well in the series, but they still won, gives me more reason to believe that that team was actually respectable as a whole. Because if you take the star away, you see what I'm saying? Like, you take the star, Kobe Bryant, away, and you still have Metta World Peace, Lamar Odom, you still have Pau Gasol and Derek Fisher and Andrew Bynum and, you know, guys on that team that can evidently pick up what Kobe wasn't putting out there offensively that series against a team that did have, albeit aging guys, still Paul Pierce, who was really good. Kevin Garnett was, I think the year before, people were saying stupid stuff like he's the best player in the league. That was stupid, but you still had him. Ray Allen was still, at that time, considered the best shooter of all time. Mm-hmm. And Rondo was considered by some people to be the best point guard in the league. So it was still a really good team. And the fact that they were able to beat them with the down series, that Kobe had offensively, I have to give them credit for that. And that's why I don't have them further down. Also, as I said before, they were a repeat champion. And so the fact that they were able to do it 2 years in a row with the same core, I have to give them a little bit of respect for that. Not many teams repeat, other than obviously the dominant ones like, you know, the three-peat Lakers, the Chicago Bulls. You have the Warriors as of late, and so I gotta give the Lakers. Yeah, the Heat too. They repeated. That's why I have the Lakers up there. Just better all around.
My question for you.
Yeah.
This Lakers team beats both of the Heat teams.
Yes.
See, now you're just doing that because you love Kobe.
No.
I'll
say this.
I'm gonna read you the stats of the other guys in that series on the Lakers.
It's not about the series though. Maybe you and I have different criteria, but I'm looking at those teams and the roster construction and how they did in the regular season, the postseason, and the finals.
So the Heat winning 66 games in the regular season in 2013.
Yeah.
That Heat team loses to this Lakers team.
Yes. Come playoffs, they were beatable. And we saw that in 2 different series. Now maybe there's a little bit of bias in there too, but I saw them lose to the Spurs, who had the same team as
that's in 2014. That's complete
same core of team.
Kennedy, Dwayne Wade couldn't even move.
He couldn't move in 2013 hardly either.
He was better in 2013 than he was in 2014.
He was. You're absolutely right.
And Chris Bosh decided that he didn't want to play basketball anymore in 2014.
I think that what you said. No, Chris Bosh could kind of play, but no. I think it's close. I think most of these series, any team other than the Warriors, I think that most of these series would probably be close, but. No, I think the Lakers in 2010 would beat the Miami Heat in 2010 definitely 2011.
Yeah, 2011 for sure.
2012, sure. Yes. 2013, it's closer, but I give the edge to the Lakers.
Oh,
I do.
Are you mad at me or something? Did I do something to piss you off?
You were smiling during the whole Zeke conversation.
That's what this is. All right. Wow. Okay. My number 7 is the 2014 Spurs for the exact reasons that I just told you. They beat basically LeBron and a bunch of guys that didn't really want to be there, and Dwayne Wade, who most of the time couldn't even move. But again, they're higher than the 4 below them because they did it with ball movement. They did it by playing defense. Kawhi kind of came into his own in this series. Well, more the season, but especially in the finals. He didn't exactly stop LeBron, but, also, again, it was LeBron and everyone else. And I would say the 2014 Heat were probably, I would say, worse than the 2011 Heat in terms of balance. LeBron was better in 2014, but even then, he was kind of, I think he kind of had one foot out the door. If they had somehow pulled off a miracle and three-peated, I think it would have been harder to leave. But, I don't know if I ever really had them beating the Spurs. The Spurs were motivated, obviously, because of what happened the year before when Ray Allen saved the LeBron's legacy. But yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, my number 6 is the Spurs. I think so. The Spurs, I have them higher than the Heat because naturally the Spurs beat that same core. So that's the reason I have them higher. But you do make sense. You make sense.
Hang on. If you're going to use that, then you have to use 2013.
What are you talking about?
That's the same core.
What are you saying? Sorry.
You just said that the 2014 Spurs are higher because they beat the Heat with the same core. But the 2013 Heat beat the 2013 Spurs with the same 2014 core.
By Ray Allen saving LeBron James' career. Just kidding. Kind of, actually. There's a little bit of truth to that, but I don't think it's completely true. The Spurs were, I think, better in 2013. And then in 2014, they completely knocked them off. So the Spurs were, I think, the better all-around team. They didn't have the star power because I wouldn't call any of them superstars, but evidently they were able to manage that just fine.
I'd say Tim Duncan was close. Maybe not in 2014 at that point, but I mean, I think he was still. He definitely was on a defensive team.
And definitely.
I agree. I would say in 2013, Tim Duncan I would still consider him a superstar, but
I wouldn't have considered him a superstar either of those years, but he was close. That was the point where we started to ask, when are they retiring? But they were still good, So the chemistry that they had and
exactly
Greg Popovich coaching that team, I would take that 2014 team really against pretty much most of the Miami Heat teams, barring obviously the 2013 team, just because obviously they won. But the Spurs all around were great. Kawhi Leonard was a difference maker in that series, but he wasn't obviously like dominant or anything. And I think that would probably be the reason why I would put them in 2014 over the Miami Heat 2013 team. Kawhi Leonard just made that team a little bit better. And so you had him, Tony Parker. Some people thought I thought this was ridiculous. Some people did think he was the best point guard in the league. I thought I would definitely have said he was top 5 at that point.
Yeah.
I would say he was top 5. So you had a top 5 point guard. You had Tim Duncan, who was, one of the best players we've seen. You had Manu Ginobili, who I think is maybe the most underrated player I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly the best bench player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And even more than Lou Williams, even more than even my favorite Jason Terry.
Yeah.
And so I think that team was actually maybe not talented, if you will, but the way that they maximized the potential was phenomenal.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. I agree.
They were very deep. Continue.
My number 6 team is the 2011 Dallas Mavericks.
Okay.
Objection?
No.
Okay. Again, we talked about this before we started recording. And even kind of, in our group chat, about how, I think people that know me as the Dallas Troll would be surprised I had them ranked as high as I did. I'm sure they're higher on your list, but I think in terms of matching them up with everyone else on this list, I don't know how many teams they necessarily beat in a 7-game series, but I think you have to look at also what they did in that playoff run. Obviously, they took out the back-to-back defending champs in the Lakers, even though that was a very shell of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Maybe. They still won 58 games.
You're smarter than that.
I mean, look, I understand that they weren't the same Lakers as they were the 2 seasons before then, but they were still a really good Lakers team.
Okay, all right. Yeah, again, a very good Lakers team led by a very good player in Kobe Bryant. And, his cast was all right around him. Then they took down your, overrated upstarts in the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then they took down arguably one of the most talented collection of stars that the league had ever seen at that point. And it was pretty convincingly. They were down 2-1 and, LeBron decided not to show up and Dirk took over. And the rest of their role players on that team played really, really well. I don't know if I'd go as far to say that. Oh, Lloyd Markkanen.
You shut your mouth. We're talking about champions here. Not.
How many titles does Dirk have?
He has 1.
Okay. Sorry.
One of the most what do you call it? One of the heaviest titles of all time.
I agree. I agree 1,000%. I would say close second to the 2016 Cavs, but we'll get there.
Who?
The 2016 Cavs.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Again, I can't take anything away from him. You look at context, LeBron didn't show up, aging Lakers team, even a year younger than you called the Oklahoma City Thunder. But yeah, Dirk played fantastic.
Yeah, they're my number 5 team. So I have them number 5. I wanted to put them at number 4, and I looked at 2 glaring stats that I'll get to later, but not about the Mavs, about the just a little bit about the Mavs, but I'll talk about that later. So I think that this team, of all the teams on this list, had the second best chemistry, second to probably the Warriors in 2015. I mean, that team, when you look at it, isn't the most talented team. Steph Curry is great. Klay Thompson is not a superstar. Draymond Green is not someone who you put on another team and they're a championship contender. Harrison Barnes is Harrison Barnes. Solid player, but that's about it. And Andrew Bogut, they had a bunch of pieces that were really good, but the chemistry is what made them a championship contending team. And I think that that's the same thing with the Mavericks. But the Mavericks, they, I also have them a little bit higher, maybe a little bit biased, but I also remember they actually were down a starter in the finals that no one talks about. Caron Butler was actually probably, in my opinion, the second best player on that team.
He missed the whole season, right?
He didn't miss the whole season. He got injured partway through. So they played part of the season with him. I actually thought that was when I thought, man, the Mavs aren't going to win the championship. And this is me as a Mavs fan. I was like, dang, that's not gonna. That's a big blow. And so he goes down. Sean Marion ends up. I think he was still starting, but Deshaun Stevenson ended up taking his place. Tyson Chandler goes on a year later to win Defensive Player of the Year. You could have maybe made the case that season he was going to, but that was a very complete team. They had shooting, they had great defense. Like you look at that roster, and Jason Kidd was a good defender even at that age. Deshaun Stevenson was a great defender. Sean Marion was a great defender. Tyson Chandler was a great defender. Then you had defensive specialists coming off the bench. You had shooters. You remember that game when they played against the Lakers with Jason Terry and Peja Stojakovic going completely nuts. You had guys like that. Dirk could shoot, obviously. Kidd developed a jump shot by then. JJ Barea was actually a sneaky good player. And then you also get to the fact no one remembers Rudy Fernandez, but he was actually considered a young, up-and-coming kind of guy for a little bit. Got traded to the Mavs because I think the Nuggets kind of got tired of him. And they also had Corey Brewer, who later in his career went off for 50. And so as far as depth guys, they had guys who didn't even play in the finals, who were actually pretty good depth guys, in my opinion.
Look at me. Did you just say what? Corey Brewer? Like
I did. I bring him up because he wasn't a part of that championship team the way that he was a part of other teams. But as far as like a third or fourth string guy on a team, Corey Brewer I would absolutely take him as a third or fourth string guy at that point in his career.
What other teams has he been a part of that have won?
I mean, when he was getting significant playing time, he wasn't winning. But
when he went for 50, who'd he play for?
The Timberwolves, right?
Yep. All right.
There you go. I'm not talking about him in that context. I'm talking about him in a third string, like literally warming the bench.
I'm just making sure.
Sure. No star, but anyway, yeah, no. The Mavericks had elite, like all around play, but they didn't have elite play from one player other than Dirk. So I didn't put them at number 4. I did have them at number 5. Simply
because put them ahead of both championship Heat teams.
Yes, because if you kept them together, I think they would have beat both of those teams. For sure, the first team. For sure, the 2012 team. I think they would have beaten them.
So, the team that Dwayne Wade was still solid. The team that Chris Bosh started shooting threes. The team where Norris Cole as a rookie had his best season probably on the Heat.
You said Norris Cole?
Yeah, Norris Cole.
You don't want to get mad at me for mentioning Corey Brewer as a third string, but Norris Cole what was he, a starter?
No, he came off the bench. But again, yet he played well against, Russell Westbrook, your boy.
If the Mavs stay together, I think that they win one of the next 2. Probably not the second one. I would say they could repeat in 2012.
Kennedy!
That 2011 team, you have 2 Hall of Famers on it. You have one of the best 6 men of the year all time. You have a great defender, one of the best defenders at his position in Tyson Chandler. Sean Marion was one of the few guys in NBA history who was actually able to get in LeBron's head and shut him down.
Oh, stop!
What?
Kennedy!
He did! What? Am I wrong?
When? Kennedy,
in 2011.
This day in 2012?
Who cares? That was not the same team.
Who was gone?
Tyson Chandler wasn't there.
Okay. He makes them 30 points better.
You know who the starting center after him was?
Who?
Brendan Haywood, who couldn't hit a damn free throw to save his life at that point. I'm going to look up this roster real quick, but they let guys go. JJ Barea, I don't think, was on that team anymore. Let's see. 2012 roster. What's his name? Rodrigo Bois. They finished 41-41 the year after because they actually gave time to Rodrigo Bois. Oh, wait. This is 2012-2013. I'm going to go back a season. They finished 36-30. Third in their division.
But this team is going to go into Miami and beat the 46-20 Heat with LeBron and D Wade both averaging above 20 points.
Well, they beat LeBron and D Wade.
Huh?
They already beat LeBron and D Wade.
LeBron didn't show up in the finals, Kennedy. When LeBron actually was there playing, the Heat were up 2-1 going home.
Who's to say that they weren't going to stop LeBron again, or that Dwayne Wade, a little bit worse, wasn't gonna make up for LeBron's uprising? All right. Also, you got to remember in 2012, Lamar Odom went over to Dallas, and Delonte West became.
This is Lamar Odom, who you just said in 2010 was a big part of.
No.
Yeah.
This is not the same. This is Kim Kardashian Lamar Odom, or Khloe Kardashian, one of the Kardashian Lamar Odoms.
But
crack cocaine. Lamar Odom.
It was the same. It was a year earlier when he was on the Lakers that you talked about how the Mavericks went through him and Kobe.
2 years earlier. First off, 2 years can make a huge difference. But that season, you want to hear? Oh my gosh.
2011?
Yeah, this is 2012. He wasn't on the 2011 team.
Yeah, but that's who the Mavericks beat. The Mavericks beat Kobe and Lamar Odom. Remember?
Yeah, there was a huge difference. Lamar Odom, they weren't though. I mean, they were, but they weren't that bad. Like Lamar Odom wasn't. He shot 53% the season before, and he shot 38% from three. Had 8.7 rebounds a game. He was a good passer. Had 14.5 points a game in 2011. In 2012, he goes to the Mavs and shoots 35% because he's on crack, and he's married to a Kardashian. 35% from the floor.
He was married to a Kardashian on the Lakers. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but see, there's an adjustment period. We've seen this. There's an adjustment period where you're still good, you're still good, and then boom, the Kardashian effect just hits you.
You're right,
and that's what happened when he came to Dallas.
Let me say this: is that all on Lamar Odom, or is that on the Mavericks as well?
What were the Mavs supposed to do? Take him off of crack?
No, incorporate him better.
Do what?
Incorporate him better. This is a guy coming off, just like you said, averaging, 7 rebounds could pass, shot 50%, 38% from three.
I've never done crack, but crack is one hell of a drug. All right. Crack took him from 53% to 35%. They should put that in these school videos where they're telling kids not to do drugs. Look at Lamar Odom's stats, okay? Because the Mavericks could not have done that. There's no way that they could have done that. A championship.
They've done it to a bunch of other guys.
No, they actually bring middle talent to being actually pretty good. Like Monte Ellis actually got better with the Mavs.
But they also bring guys who are really good to not good.
Chandler Parsons was actually not that good. He was decent in Houston, and then actually became pretty good with injuries.
Chandler Parsons was better in Houston.
No. Yeah. He was better. And what happened when he went from Dallas to Memphis? He was bad. He was really bad.
All right. So Houston has a better system than Dallas, is what you're saying?
No. Not at that time. Now they do. Absolutely.
He was better in Houston than he was in Dallas.
No, he wasn't. You're saying that.
You're right. I am saying that.
You're wrong.
Okay.
I'm saying that crack is one hell of a drug, and that Lamar Odom went from being actually pretty good to being complete trash with the Mavs, and that's why we saw them drop.
You want to know something, Kennedy?
What?
You want to know what you're wrong about? That the 2012 Heat and the 2013 Heat would lose to the Mavericks in 2011.
No, I'm not wrong about that.
Anyone outside of Dallas would say the Heat would win.
That's great. I don't care about their opinion. This is not a vote. This is me analyzing 2011 very deep, very balanced Dallas Mavericks team with a phenomenal start. Dirk went off in those playoffs. You saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Going against.
You're right. He did. You're right.
Same core of players in 2012 and 2013. I think that the Mavs would have won again.
If LeBron shows up,
would have been closer.
If LeBron shows up, the Dallas Mavericks have 0 championships. Dirk has 0. 0.
Well, the Mavs were responsible partially for taking LeBron out of his game.
Stop. Look, Kennedy, come on.
You have to do it, but it has to go both ways.
That was LeBron's fault. LeBron took himself out of that finals. Yes or no?
Sean Marion and Deshaun Stevenson both guarded LeBron. Oh, he's still the number 2 player in the NBA history.
Go ahead. What's next on our list?
Did you do number 5?
The 2016 Cavs.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Again, I love this team. Fantastic team. Kevin Love is the reason this team is held down. They had good role players off the bench. LeBron was unbelievable. Kyrie was unbelievable. They played great defense, which is surprising for LeBron James' team led recently. But yeah, they beat a great team. But I think it's very close, but I still have them worse than the Heat teams.
Okay.
Because of Kevin Love.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So I mean, obviously, I have them higher than the Heat teams. Mm-hmm. But I'll get to that, actually. But not now, because my number 4 team is actually the Warriors in 2015. And I actually thought the same thing as you. I thought the same thing as you, man. Maybe they weren't as good as, obviously, the Warriors in 2017 or 18. But I think we hold the Warriors to that bar. And just because the 2015 Warriors didn't reach that bar, they weren't a good Warriors team. But I listed to you earlier, the depth was actually awesome. You had Andrew Bogut. Festus Ezeli was actually good at this point until he got hurt. He was good. He was a good backup. Good enough for them to win. And Maurice Spates. Maurice Spates was on this team. All right, so let's see. Leandro Barbosa was there.
He was on the 2016 team too. They all were on the 2016 Warriors that lost to the Cavs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't change my point. They Andre Iguodala was actually 4 years younger. You still had David Lee was on that roster who he wasn't great, but the season before then he was averaging 18 points a game. So when he was a third string guy on that team, that shows you a little bit how deep that team was. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. I think between duos, you and I talked about this before, but I think that they had the best chemistry of any duo that we've ever seen. This is the creation of Splash Brothers. I think that. I don't know if you said that or not, but Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. I see you're mad. I'm sorry. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry become the Splash Bros this season. They win 65 games, go 65-17. But this is where I actually had a lot of respect for them. So I told you about their depth. I think that the depth was off the charts. I didn't even talk about Sean Livingston, who was mid-range genius. They were second in offensive rating, and they were first in defensive rating.
Mm-hmm.
They were second and first, so they were head and shoulders above everybody else in the league. They were 67-15. I'm sorry. So because of that efficiency that they showed offensively and defensively throughout the season, I had to put them at number 4, just over the Mavs. I almost had them at number 5, and I was almost really biased and put the Mavs at number 4. But the Warriors were starting a dynasty, and they had, in my opinion, the best chemistry of anybody on this list. They changed the league with this team, and then they added to it with Kevin Durant, obviously, later. But this was the team that started the whole trend, and so I have to put them at number 4. First in defensive rating, man. That's impressive. That really is.
Very impressive. Very impressive. I have the 2013 Heat at number 4. I think you're on crack. Talking about crack.
Drop 18% from the floor.
Talking about crack. First of all, the 2012 Heat are better than the 2013 Heat.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Dwayne Wade's better. They have more depth. I don't care about Ray Allen. Ray Allen was one player.
Why not? By adding the greatest shooter of all time at that point, you end up winning a championship against a better team. I don't think they win without Ray Allen, and I think that.
So who did the 2012 Thunder beat to get to the finals? Did they beat the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, they did. But it doesn't matter because we're talking about the same team plus Ray Allen. The 2013 team was better.
But Dwayne Wade got worse. You said it yourself. Dwayne Wade was no longer the Dwayne Wade we knew.
A little bit, but they couldn't shoot before all that well. They were decent at shooting, but not great. And then you add the greatest shooter of all time at that point.
So
I think that makes up for Dwayne Wade.
Mario Chalmers.
Mario Chalmers is okay.
LeBron can't shoot. James Jones.
James Jones played like a minute per game, but.
In what? In 2012?
Yeah, James Jones wasn't touching the court that much. He wasn't playing in the finals. James Jones.
James Jones played 14 minutes a game, sir.
In the finals?
I don't know about the finals. I'm looking at his regular season numbers here. Shot 40% from 3.
Yeah, no, he was a solid shooter. Ray Allen was a better shooter than all of them.
You're right, but
Mario Chalmers was
much worse than he was in 2012.
Let's look at Mario Chalmers' stats because I don't remember him being as good of a shooter as people want to say that he was.
38% from 3 in 2012.
Yeah, if he's your best shooter, him and James Jones doesn't play enough for him to really be.
Mike Miller, 45% from 3.
Mike Miller was legit. Okay, so he was one of the better players, but they were a decent shooting 3.2. Sorry, they were a decent 3-point shooting team.
Chris Bosh.
Ray Allen came.
No, this was 2012, so he hadn't really stepped out all that much yet.
There you go. So 2013, Chris Bosh starts shooting, and he's actually pretty good at it. But 2013, Dwayne Wade also regresses, so you got this going on. Evens out a little bit, in my opinion. But
I would take Dwayne Wade being better over Chris Bosh being able to shoot a couple threes.
I guess that's where we disagree a little bit. That plus getting Ray Allen, I think, put them a little bit over the top. But
all right.
Not crazy over the top.
Sometimes, guys, you have to learn that people are not as smart as you, sports-wise. So, it's okay, Kennedy. We still love you. But
sometimes, guys, you learn you don't need validation from other people.
Football's a better sport, but
no. Actually, I feel a lot more confident in analyzing basketball than football. But I'll go ahead and tell you my number 3 team. This should bring a smile to your face. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 2016. Yeah, so LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, I think, is better than LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh personally, only because I would say career-wise, Dwayne Wade was better. But the point that LeBron kind of took over from Dwayne Wade, we started seeing Dwayne Wade get a little bit more injured, and we saw Kyrie was a better shooter. So I think their fit was better. I think that LeBron and Kyrie was actually one of the better duos that we've seen in the past decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's probably second to either of the probably Warriors duos, whatever you want to put it. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. You could probably even put LeBron and Kyrie over Steph Curry and Klay Thompson if you really wanted to.
But that's just me.
Yeah. So I think that duo made them incredible, and it gave them enough star power to overcome a 3-1 deficit. You had depth on that team. This is LeBron playing like an MVP at this point. He wasn't really. He was deferring, but he was deferring to someone who, as I said, a wonderful duo. It was a really good duo, and they beat the 2015 team that I was just really high on. The number one in defensive rating, number 2 in offensive rating, and they were 73-9 at this point. So this Golden State Warriors team was actually better than the team before, and the Cavaliers were the team to take them out. So I have the Cavs as my number 3 team. I hope you like that personally.
No, I mean, again, they would have been my number 3 team outside of the Heat, but I think the Heat team beats the Cavs team.
I could see.
In my opinion, I'll take the 2012 Heat over the 2016 Cavs.
I guess I like the shooting on the Cavaliers. Like I just thought that the Cavs
the league has gone a different way. So I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's this partial bias, I guess, to what the league is now, maybe. Because at the time, the Heat were maybe a decent shooting team, but we're seeing teams that are better now because they can shoot.
Oh, 1,000.
So that's probably why I have the Heat a little bit lower. Actually, I guess quite a bit lower. But so I really like the Cavs. I think that they were the number 3 team, and obviously that's the next 2.
I have the 2012 Heat because I think they were better than 2013 Heat. I think they were better than the 2016 Cavs. I think they were better than everyone else below them on the list. They definitely are better than the 2011 Mavericks. That's a joke.
Not because we saw the same matchup the year before, but it's whatever.
Okay. Did the Heat have Shane Battier?
No, but I don't think Shane Battier would have made any difference. He would have made a small difference, just a small difference.
Anyway, I have the 2012 Heat for every reason that we've talked about already. You want to switch the Heat around, I guess you could. I still take the 2012 team. But, again, this is opinionated, so I'm excited to see what order you have number 1 and number 2.
I've got 2018 as the number 2. I guess I'll just go ahead and analyze the difference. Obviously, you got the 2017 one at number 1. 2017, they only lost 1 game in the finals.
Yeah.
Or not in the finals, in the playoffs. They were 16-1, and so to me, I don't even think it's really a discussion.
I don't either.
The Warriors the next season were a little bit older, but it wasn't a bad thing. They were still dominant, but it's like now you have I guess the laziness, if you will, kind of set in. Not Popovich. Steve Kerr was starting to complain about how he can motivate the players.
We were talking about them. Yeah. I think 2017 is definitely 1,000%. Spoiler, mine is the same. 2017 is definitely better. Yeah. Deeper.
It was to the point where we didn't think that, like, we thought it was boring to watch the playoffs at that point because they were just throwing everybody around like they could, And 2018 they were close to losing. They got to a 7-game series, as you said.
Yep.
2017, also 2018 they played an easier finals matchup.
1,000%.
Kyrie leaving takes away from that duo that you and I are both high on. The 2017 team was able to beat that team, which I think that if the Warriors didn't form the way that they did, if Kevin Durant didn't join them, the Cavs would probably be the best team on this list. Personally, that's my opinion. And so the fact that the Warriors were able to beat that team shows how dominant they were. But I don't think that there's really any arguing about this. I think anybody would say that the Kevin Durant Golden State Warrior teams were among the best ever, not just in this decade, but ever. So there you have it.
I agree. All right.
I do have to say one thing real quick. So I looked down at my phone during this episode, and I got an update at 6:54 Central Time, depending on where you are. 6:54 Central Time. Stephen Jones says Dallas can't afford huge deals for Zeke, Dak, and Amari. Quote, "We don't want to do things that are out of line."
But yeah, they're gonna pay Dak $200 million.
They'll do something.
Oh, man.
We'll see how this plays out.
Bad for Cowboys fans. I'm sorry.
A little worried. I do have one more thing to say about that. Actually, we got to remember Jason Garrett is coaching for his job this season too. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects his job. Being that Zeke might not even be there, and will that mess with a little bit of the game planning or the chemistry or anything like that? I don't know. But we'll have to see. Hopefully they sign him. Hopefully. But if you listen to this far, this far, follow us on Twitter at Lunch Sports. Follow me at Kennedy Curly 44 and follow him at That Boy Clink something with it. 4189.
That Boy Clink. Capital T, capital B, capital K.
I'll have to memorize that, but yeah, follow us. We're actually a lot more entertaining probably than our Twitter page, but our Twitter page at Lunch Sports. So follow our Twitter page, and we will see you in the next few days, maybe Friday. Maybe. So yeah, see y'all.